Snowy!
Yeah?
Play Winston!
Yeah, I can play Winston.
Let's kick their ass. Let's fucking wreck their shit. Eat their dirt. Piss on their graves.
1 week since you looked at me. Cocked your head to the side and said I'm angry. 5 days since you laughed at me.
Matchmaking is fucking broken, and anyone that says otherwise is a fucking retard! This game is fucking stupid!
It'll still be 2 days till I say I'm sorry.
So if we go to the hero gallery, there's now a woman. Oh, and a second woman. Right, I haven't played this game for a year. There's several new characters.
Invite me to a party, you cuck.
Okay, gosh.
Cuck!
Ah, yes, Ilios. Good to see this map is still in the game. I'm gonna suck that man. I'm gonna suck him. Oh, suck! Right? Right, I did that? Okay guys, have some more of my Sierra Mist. It's been a while since I uploaded that fateful video of me, Zach, and our mute friend Jesse playing 3v3 mode. Since then, I've uploaded 30 videos of myself and my friends playing random games and making bad jokes. And I'm not gonna pretend 25 subscribers within a year is impressive, or that number is anywhere close to a goal of mine. But I do want to thank you guys. All you who regularly watch what I put up, and especially the ones who comment. I mean, never thought I would have a Korean fan that calls my penis cute. That's something money won't buy you. As for you, Saxton, you keep working on that syntax, buddy. I'm very happy to have grown both my editing skills and my overall charisma with you guys over the past year, and I'm sure all the friends I brought along with me share that same sentiment. Maybe. I don't know. While I may have missed out on being the only trap on YouTube to play Wizard 101, I have secured the demographic of being the only trap on YouTube to have a TF2 channel. But before I started regularly uploading TF2 videos, there was another game that this channel was based around. And I think it's finally time to do what I've been putting off for a long time. The Spelunky review, yeah! Didn't you know this channel actually started off with a choppy stream of me and Zach talking over me playing Spelunky? So let's stop reminiscing and get right into analyzing game design and Spelunky. Actually, no. My lack of motivation has destined the Spelunky review to be a joke on this channel for years to come. What we're actually talking about today is, of course, Overwatch. I've wanted to do a full Overwatch analysis pretty much since I started this channel, but around the time I started uploading, there was already plenty of that going around, and I was actually getting a bit tired of Overwatch as a topic in general. And eventually the game just drove me away on its own with some pretty ludicrous balance changes that happened around last June. In fact, everyone on this channel got driven away from it except Jesse. I had decided to finally do this review on the channel's anniversary, and honestly I feel the time couldn't have been better. We aren't expecting any new heroes that will immediately outdate this, and the devs seem to be communicating with players a lot more lately, as evidenced by them actively discussing Symmetra's rework with us. Now there's a huge thing to preface this with. I am going to draw comparisons to TF2, but only from a game design standpoint. Jeff Kaplan made it clear he takes a lot of inspiration from TF2, and Overwatch is more comparable to when Melee fans try to make their own Smash Bros. Than to just a cheap rip-off game. Think of how you would compare something like Brawlout to Melee. That's what I mean by comparisons. Now that that's out of the way, on to the first topic, which is
So why is there only one bed? Oh wait, there's two.
This one's Roadhogs.
And this one's Junkrat's.
Yeah.
Wait, no, that's not a bed. There's only one bed in here. They slept together.
Yeah. They're boyfriends. I can heal while moving now and also get super armor while healing. I'm I am a king. Look at me. Oh, ho, ho, ho. The Roadhog buff nobody wanted.
Go.
I don't have ult.
Doesn't matter. Just go.
Okay.
Shit.
That was 3 people. What a boy. What a boy.
Actually,
big,
it was 4.
beautiful boy.
That was 4 people, Snowy.
It was a lot. That's. An important thing to think about when designing a game with a large roster of characters is if all of them serve a purpose in existing. This can even be something small, as long as the character in question brings something to the table that warrants their existence. TF2 has done a pretty good job of this. You have 8 guys and 1 androgynous mental patient, each with something they can do better than any other choices. They each have a roster of custom weapons that can change some of their functions, whether it be a slight change to the stock weapon or a full change in playstyle. The most obvious example is probably the medic. By default, you have the ability to charge up and make you and your heal target invincible, but you can switch that invincibility out for a stronger base heal, and your charge ability being changed to amplifying your heal rate by 3 times instead. Take that a step further, and you can switch out your invincibility with amplifying your heal target's damage output by 3 times without getting any benefits yourself. Vaccinator is also a weapon. TF2 does a good job of not only having each character serve a purpose, but have most of their unlockable weapons serve a purpose as well, letting these 9 fine lads to each be played in many different ways. In Overwatch, you trade out 9 customizable characters with a ragtag group of 27 weirdos that each know 1 set of skills, making the game seem a bit more like League of Legends than Team Fortress. But is the way Overwatch handles skill sets really any different than TF2's weapon system? Yeah. But there is room for comparison. Take a look at the premier tank characters in Overwatch, Reinhardt, Orisa, and Winston. Think about what they do. Each one is a big damage sponge that can put up a shield to help teammates, but each one has a slightly different shield. Reinhardt can only cover one direction, but has the strongest one of the 3. Winston's shield is a big inconvenient bubble that the enemy team needs to sorta dance around in order to deal damage to anyone, but it's the weakest. Orisa acts as a sorta combination of the two, having a shield she puts down like Winston, but it's sort of a curved wall, providing a little more protection from the sides than Reinhardt's does. This one's sort of a middle ground between the 2 extremes. Now, do you notice anything familiar about that? Despite these 3 characters having different models and health pools, they feel a lot more like customs for one character. I can easily picture these 3 shields being 3 separate weapons for a hypothetical TF2 class that would use shields. Their other abilities feel sorta like customs too. Their primary weapons encapsulate close, mid, and long range respectively. Reinhardt can charge forward indefinitely until he hits a wall, dealing insane damage to whoever he hits, while Winston leaps forward through the air, dealing slight damage to anyone he lands near. Orisa doesn't charge or jump forward, but she has an ability that buffs her defense and negates knockback for a few seconds, allowing her to advance forward manually. Looking at all this kinda makes me think of Smash 4's custom moves. Slightly different versions of the same thing, with obvious upsides and downsides. But after all that, you're probably wondering where on earth am I going with this argument. Well, comparing similar characters in Overwatch to weapon switches in TF2 helps to put certain things in perspective. When I first played Overwatch, I had the thought that characters like Widowmaker and Ana were too useless and not viable enough to bother using, and I feel like a lot of people have that thought process towards the game. But if you think of similar heroes in Overwatch as different weapon loadouts or just different customs like in Smash, you would see that not every hero should be viable at all times. Would you constantly run the Brass Beast as heavy, or the Kritzkrieg as medic? No, they're too situational to use at all times, but that doesn't inherently make them bad weapons. And even if there are characters in Overwatch that don't have as much use as I would like, complaining about that kinda feels wrong to me. It's kinda like complaining that the sun on a stick isn't good. Yes, games should be designed where every character has a certain use, and I think for the most part it actually pulls that off, even if I can't play as Ana as much as I'd like to. Except for Bridget. I just really don't know what they were going for with her. Yeah, her ultimate is sort of like Soldier's buff banner type deal, but I honestly think in this game that isn't enough to warrant existing. Maybe the meta just hasn't found the optimal way of using her yet, I don't know. Well, since I said that every character has a sort of spot in the game, that obviously means I think that this game is very well balanced and that there is nothing—
Lobsters for dinner!
I shouldn't be here. I should not be here. Bye. Bye. Go away. Woman, I'm trying to heal you. Woman! You know, I feel like in this day and age of Mercy being able to res someone every 12 seconds, it's just a detriment to your team to pick any healer that isn't her.
Even back when she wasn't the greatest fucking thing.
Just take this. Take the Healy thing. Okay, don't. Hi. Hi! Okay. Yeah, Symmetra still exists. Symmetra definitely still exists. Who needs healthies? Healthy boy. Oop. That was... Oh.
You really didn't healthies, my boy.
Tried to throw it at someone, and it killed someone. It did the exact opposite of what I was trying to do.
That's close enough.
I beat my dick like Chris Brown's wife. I beat my dick like Cosby's wife.
Finding you a more balanced game. Huh. Let me get something clear. Stun mechanics are not fun. If I'm playing a video game, one could infer that I would prefer to be in control of the situation. TF2 figured this out and sent the Sandman on a never-ending downward spiral of nerfs. They changed Air Blast on Pyro entirely, so it's less of a movement-hindering stun and more of a slide across the ground that you can keep control during. If you want your game to be competitive, it is smart to have as little stun or slow or movement-hindering mechanics as possible. Fighting games learned this, and in recent years most of them only really apply a stun when your shield or block is broken, which time doesn't exist, shut up. These shield breaks exist to stop fights from stalemating, and it rightfully punishes cowardly plays in an aggressive environment. This game decided that despite having the goal of being a mainstream esports, it wanted to throw in as many movement hindrances as humanly possible, thinking up new and creative ways to have control ripped from you. McCree, May, Reinhardt, Bridget, Ana, Roadhog, and apparently Doomfist all have full-on stuns. May and Symmetra have ridiculously easy ways to slow you down. Junkrat can trap and hold you in place for a few seconds. Who needs to learn how to aim pipes? Uriz has this ball thing that can yoink you from wherever you're heading straight back to where you were. Several ultimates are not much more than finding a creative way to hinder movement. It absolutely baffles me that someone who has been playing Team Fortress since the old school Quake mod would want to have so many of these movement hindrances in his own game. And the worst part is, having stun and slow mechanics are pretty much the only thing keeping certain characters viable. Despite what Zach would tell you, McCree is absolutely at his best trying to flank people, stunning and unloading a clip into them. Roadhog would not be nearly as viable as he is without being able to drag other people closer to him. Stunning is a deep-seated problem in Overwatch's design, and it would be nigh impossible to rework some characters to be even fun to play without these stuns or movement-hindering mechanics. Without McCree's flashbang, would it really be worth it to get good at sniping with a pistol when you could just play as Widowmaker? As Roadhog, if you tried to close the distance without the hook, you would take a ton of damage because of how big of a target you are. This is an issue to the point where we are still getting characters like this to this day. While this is a big issue and playing against May makes me feel like I'm having an aneurysm, I have to move on from this. Outside of stun mechanics, I don't think that the rest of the game's balancing is void of criticism. Like I said, balancing was the entire reason I stopped playing before. While I do think they're getting a bit better at making meaningful changes, for quite a while it felt like they just didn't even know what game they were balancing for. Roadhog between launch and June of 2017 was an absolute menace on the battlefield, and probably the safest pick you could make outside of maybe Mercy. He had insane single target damage, has an insane health pool, and as we discussed before, he can drag people directly in front of him from quite a ways away. He could also self-heal for half his health every 10-ish seconds at the cost of standing still for a bit. Pretty much a copy-paste of Heavy Sandwich, but faster and weaker. Now, around when I quit, they decided to nerf Roadhog by upping his firing speed, giving him an extra shot in the clip, while slightly reducing his per-shot damage. He could still shred through enemies, just now he can also spam super fast shots down choke points for free damage and potentially even free kills. And on top of that, since then they decided that was apparently too much of a nerf, and let him walk and gain damage resistance while healing. Roadhog's current design is pretty much the shooter game version of Pot of Greed. No risk, high reward. Despite them keeping Roadhog like this, I did say I think they're getting slightly better at balancing, but really I can only say slightly. One of my favorite characters to play is Sombra, and they recently buffed her to be able to disable way more options. Pharah can't fly anymore when hacked, and Genji can't climb walls or double jump. It's a very nice change. But at the same time, they changed the cooldown on hacking to occur not only when you actually do a hack, but if the hacking sequence is interrupted at all. Considering you have to track someone pretty accurately without taking damage for a few seconds to make it go through, it gets pretty infuriating having that cooldown pop up and make you wait for another opportunity so often. They also for a while in the PTR changed her wall hack from occurring when people are below 50% health to when they are damaged at all. And while it didn't go through, this change feels like the Meet Your Match Righteous Bison, where the devs just did not understand the purpose of the original design. This wall hack thing she has is literally called Opportunist, as in taking advantage of a situation to aid yourself. It was designed to let Sombra get the jump on weakened enemies to finish them off herself. She is, after all, an offense class. The PTR change pretty much made it a constant Widowmaker ult that you need to constantly call out to your team. Yes, this is a functional ability. Making these calls can definitely help, but it's still such a strange change in the first place that it makes it seem like the devs communicate about as much as the writing team for Steven Universe. At least the Symmetra changes they're working on seem competent. Getting rid of a aimbot gun is a big enough change already to make me happy. Let's just pray it doesn't suck when it's finally finished. Hey, it's Nepal. Are there any new maps? But let's, B-Punch. Thunder Punch. And that's who cares? I don't want to be a part of that. Anyone who picks May is immediately less of a friend to me than they could be. Let's attack the objective. Objective! Attacking it! That did nothing. That did so much nothing. That was the most disappointing ultimate I've ever had.
Hi, I'm Widowmaker. I'm just gonna appear out of fucking nowhere and shoot you.
Give me this health pack. This is mine now. Nobody else's. Hello!
You couldn't have just hacked her?
No, it has a cooldown now.
Oh.
18 naked cowboys in the showers at Ram Ranch.
Where is this place? Where am I? I fucking love this place.
Sadly, I couldn't find a more natural way to flow into talking about maps, but I do think maps are just as important to the game as the characters. I mean, without the maps, where would they be shooting each other on? For the most part, I don't particularly hate a lot of maps in Overwatch, but I do have a few things to say about them in general. For one, attack-defend maps in Overwatch are just straight up bad. You see this little arch formation with the two walls? I have absolutely no idea why, but almost every attack-defend map in this game uses this formation right at first point, sometimes even more than once. It funnels your whole team through one cramped area, and for some bizarre reason, there's barely any flank routes through them for most of the maps. You go through this archway, whether you like it or not. These attack-defend maps feel very similar to 2007 TF2 maps. See Dust Bowl, Powerhouse, Hoodoo. They all use these cramped spaces where the attacking team just has to make the push of the sentry or fail to cap. Now in TF2, the issue with these maps was they were designed with the original stock loadouts of characters in mind, and of course didn't age well once game-changing unlocks became staple. But even back then, the defense could just team stack 6 entries and you would have to sit around building Uber for 5 minutes. This is probably why Overwatch got rid of team stacking outside of a specific arcade mode. But why, may I ask, would these maps from day one all have these horrendous problems with balancing if every character has been almost the same for this game's lifespan? First point on maps like Eichenwald, Egypt, and King's Row are all just waiting games until the attacking team gets like 3 ults and uses them all at once. And in the case of Egypt, it pretty much has this issue on both points. However, the other main game modes in Overwatch do fare a lot better. Koth maps in particular are always really fun for me, balanced for both sides, and usually you have bottomless pits you can knock people into. That last one isn't really important, but I do feel like environmental kills are an Overwatch staple considering just how many maps have these big pits. So yeah, I wouldn't call the map design entirely awful by any means, but there is one thing I really dislike about how they are handled in other game modes. In arcade modes like Capture the Flag and Deathmatch, they just use normal maps designed for other game modes. For CTF, this is excusable. They tend to use Koth maps, and they work very well for mirrored gameplay. However, it's when Deathmatch comes into play that this becomes an issue. For some reason, the Overwatch devs decided to utilize attack, defend, and payload maps for this mode. They simply put up little force fields at certain points of the map to slim it down and call it a day. They didn't even give the teams respawn rooms, they just sorta melee onto the arena in a random spot. Now, I can understand the idea behind this. Removing the spawn rooms, in theory, makes it impossible for spawn camping to happen, but at the same time, it does add quite a bit of unpredictability to the flow of the game. You don't know where you're gonna spawn, and they don't either. Any rando could just whoop, teleport behind you and start attacking you. TF2 uses the same maps for plenty of modes, though they are almost always mirrored maps that are actually usable for many game modes. They also edit the maps physically instead of just putting up barriers and calling it a day. CTF Sawmill doesn't just toss the briefcase in front of spawn and call that dunzo. They built an actual room for the safe to be in. There are actual arena maps in Overwatch, and I do think those are pretty fun, so why not make more of those instead of using these unbalanced, unmirrored maps? Yeah, it would take up time, but Deathmatch is definitely a popular enough game mode to warrant the effort. Coldfront was literally the only arena map in the game for the longest time, but people still had a blast playing on it. But ignoring unimportant side modes, I did say that I generally think the game's maps are pretty nice. And I especially think that it's cool how some Koth maps do this neat thing where they make alternate routes that are only usable by certain characters. It's really cool that they have so many characters in mind at once when creating a map. Must be a pretty hard task to pull off. It's really cool that they even bother trying.
It's the freak phone, and here's the party freak.
I'm kinda done playing for now.
Go for it.
Is that okay with you?
Yeah, this game does not stay fun for very long.
Finally.
It's time for the moment you've been waiting for.
It alright. Hey, I'm just as surprised as you are when it comes to how neutral this whole review has been. One would probably expect someone who quit this game entirely for a year would sorta hate it, but coming back to it, it's just kind of meh. I absolutely despise the stun mechanics and the occasional brain-dead balancing, but through all the anger I've spouted gathering footage, I realized something. This game is casual. And that's not to say there is no skill at all involved in this game. I don't think that there's quite a TF2 level of skill ceiling. You won't see any montages of Overwatch on YouTube that come even close to what Sketchek could do in his videos, but you can get good at this game, despite what some of the more salty people in the TF2 community would tell you. It's just that Overwatch is a different kind of game. It's very polished engine-wise, you can't do anything ridiculous by learning some weird wave dash-esque mechanic that was never intended to even exist, but having played with someone who actually likes the game and plays it daily, I did notice there are things to learn. I call the game casual because what there is to learn is all very surface level stuff. When characters can only use one skill set and the engine doesn't allow much improvising, the most you can learn is just how to use your abilities and aim. Does that make Overwatch a bad game by any means? No, not really. It makes it a more accessible game, which is probably why everyone and their grandmother knows what an Overwatch is. It's easier to understand a character that can hold the jump button and fly than it is to understand a character that has the best mobility in the game if you learn button inputs as precise as high-level Skullgirls. Even skins are just generally easier to understand to a new player than TF2's cosmetics. Look at this menu. When you first booted up TF2, did anything here make sense to you? Why do you have 8 taunt slots? Where do I even get cosmetic items? So, yeah, Overwatch isn't really a bad game by any means. I find it infuriating at times and truly think it doesn't deserve to be an esport, but at its core, it's just a goofy shooter with goofy ideas that people take way, way too seriously. In other words, it's TF2 for normies. I want to thank every one of you that stuck with me this past year, and any new viewers that stuck with me through this review. It really does mean a lot, and I look forward to another year of making these videos, and I'm definitely hoping to bring more scripted stuff to this channel. My friends have even said they wanted to make some stuff for the channel themselves. Look forward to a Fire Emblem Fates review by, quote, sometime this year, maybe. I'm also gonna be editing for my buddy Palmer over on his channel from now on, which I'll put in the description. Subscribe to him. He's a YouTube sensation. A lot funnier than me. So, will I be returning to making Overwatch content on this channel? Maybe. Well, for now, I best get back to obsessing over Smash Bros. While I wait for E3. Who do you think is gonna get added? I see people wanting Marks as the new Kirby rep a lot. I think it would be cool, but quote says that he would more likely be an assist trophy if anything. What do you think on that matter? Also, I want Skull Kid because he is my friend. My voice hurts. So I got I'm not gonna be able to do my femme voice for like days after this.
With me and Snowy combined, we're half of an African child.